Did you have Jamar Chase this week? Congratulations, you won. Did you have DJ Moore on Thursday night? Hey, congratulations, you won again. Do you have Breece Hall? Congratulations, you might be winning for the rest of the season. This is your Week 5 recap from the ADP, the Average Dudes podcast. I am your Average Dude host, Matt Mormann, and we're going to go through each and every game from the Sunday slate, give you a quick little recap on each game, and kind of what it all means for the fantasy football world. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at ADP Dudes, and let's just dive right on into these games. We're going to kick things off with that Sunday morning game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Buffalo Bills. Jags pick up the win in this one 25-20. And in this one, I think, it was pretty simple. The Jacksonville Jaguars came back to life in this game. And that's really exciting to see for fantasy because these are a lot of fantasy relevant players who we've been very disappointed by so far this season. Travis Etienne continued to get a big workload. He put up 34.4 half point PPR points for you in this one. I believe I'm on half point. I will double check that for you. Well, James Cook, yeah, that's gonna be full point PPR. Okay, 34.4 full point PPR for you out of Travis Etienne. Trevor Lawrence throwing for 315 yards and a touchdown. He did lose 2 fumbles here, so you actually kind of lost a few points in a bit of a fluky way here on Trevor, but he did come through for you with a decent little game there with that one. Calvin Ridley, he comes through a big way, catches 7 of his 8 targets, goes for 122 yards in this one. Very encouraging. I'm not going to go too crazy over it, but it is a great game to see out of Calvin Ridley. I think I am willing to chalk this up a little bit to a good matchup at this point. I think the Bills defense has suffered so many injuries and Von Miller's not fully back in the lineup yet that I think this could be an aberration from the Jags. I am willing to sell high on these guys, but it is kind of a sell high situation. I don't necessarily think Calvin Ridley is going to be that top 10 receiver that maybe we thought he would be after week 1. I think that he also is not going to be the complete dumpster fire he was since week 1 up until this point, though. So somewhere in the middle, probably more of a pretty decently good wide receiver 2 option for you. Christian Kirk with another nice little game, though. Nothing crazy, but a 6 catch for 78-yard game for him. Evan Ingram, I believe he left early in this one. Did he not? I thought I saw him. Okay, maybe not. Maybe he did play the whole game. I thought I saw him get banged up in this one. But he comes away with just 4 catches and 28 yards. Disappointing game for the tight ends all around in this game with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid both also not doing anything. Josh Allen, he kind of volumed his way to a nice one here. I didn't think Josh Allen looked good at all during this game. This game, I thought he looked kind of rough to me from the eye test, but he threw the ball 40 times. He got a couple touchdowns in there, also ran one in. I am a bit worried about Josh Allen's rushing, even though he got a touchdown in this one. I was a bit worried about that going into this season, and just looking at his numbers so far this year, he had 6 for 36 in week 1. That's great to see. Then back to games with only 3 attempts, one of which he did have 46 yards and a touchdown in, and then he's actually scored in 3 straight games on the ground. The yardage just isn't there, though, really. I mean, 17 and 14 yards in back-to-back games. I think you're getting a little lucky with Josh Allen being the QB1. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it to me, it doesn't feel like he's playing at QB1 level, but he's been excellent, though, regardless. Do I have any other notes for this first game? I don't believe I do. That's pretty much it. You're starting Diggs. Gabe Davis continues to be kind of a wide receiver 3 or a flex option for you. These games are going to happen for Gabe, where it's going to be really good. Next week, we may sit here and say, well, these games are going to happen for Gabe too, and they're not very good. James Cook, bad game from him. I'm kind of he earned enough in the first month of the season where I'm kind of letting this one ride off a little bit. Next game, the Tennessee Titans 16, Indianapolis Colts 23. Anthony Richardson's injury, the big story in this one. He suffered a shoulder injury, and he is expected to miss some time on this one. They haven't come out and said just yet how much time, but Gardner Minshew will be getting the start next week for the Indianapolis Colts. That's concerning, definitely, if you're a Richardson manager. If you're a manager of these one of these wide receivers, though, I think that is a bit of a positive. We've seen Gardner Minshew elevate these guys before. I think Josh Downs becomes a guy that I'll highlight later on in the next episode for the waiver wire pickups. Let's talk about those Colts running backs a little bit here. Jonathan Taylor, he signed a 3-year extension. He is back. He is full go. He was a little bit quiet in this one, working his way back in. And Zach Moss didn't leave anything for him to replace. You know, it's not like the Colts are looking at this and saying we have to get Zach Moss off of our field. He goes 22 carries for $165 and 2 touchdowns in this one. I hate the fact that I'm not going to be able to recommend him as a starter moving forward. Like, I just will not be able to trust it at all. Let me pull up the schedule here and see who they play next week. If it's a juicy matchup, I think you could get Zach Moss in your lineup as a flex. Next week, the Colts have Jacksonville, who you just saw completely shut down James Cook this week in London. Although this is their first time, they were rested in London. I think there may have been a bit of an advantage there for the Jags. Now they're coming back to the States. I think there's a world where you could be playing Zach Moss as a RB2 flex option next week. It would depend on what you've got, but you've been riding him all year. I think there are lineups out there where I can recommend Zach Moss as your starting running back next week. But Jonathan Taylor, I have no worries about him moving forward. I am okay with treating him as kind of a late second round pick kind of player, I think, moving forward. Maybe more of an early second round pick kind of player. If I were to do complete redraft rankings right now, I think he would probably be right around running back 6 or so off the top of my head. I would have to dig deeper onto that one. On the Tennessee side of things, Derrick Henry put up another kind of stinker game out of him. I think it might be time to get a bit concerned about Henry with his age. Tyjae Spears, to me, he has moved into the priority handcuff among running backs. He is a guy that if he is available in your league, absolutely make sure you scoop him up. And he's playing a lot. He's played over 50% of the snaps in a couple games now. And he's a guy who has shown a little bit of juice. I don't know if Tony Pollard is necessarily a perfect comparison with Henry being his Zeke. I just don't think this offense is explosive enough for that. But I can see that kind of being the way you feel about him moving forward. Yeah, 52% of the snaps in this one. For Tyjae Spears, he had 53 and 56 each of the last 2 weeks. He's on the field a lot more than any other running back has been with Derrick Henry, at least I can think of, since the DeMarco Murray days when Henry was the up-and-comer. DeAndre Hopkins, he comes through the big one in this one for you. 8 catches for 140 yards in this game. He looks to be well past that injury now with this game. He did play 83% of the snaps as well. It wasn't like it was just a one big play kind of thing for his day. Definitely saw a big jump in snaps there. He only played 53% the week before. Seeing that big jump tells me he's healthier now. He's getting the ball back rolling. He is DeAndre Hopkins, even though he's older. These kinds of games can still come out of him. And they have Baltimore next week. I'm not in love with my Ravens secondary at the moment. I think Hopkins could be a bit of a nice little wide receiver 2 option next week. All right, on to the next game. The New Orleans Saints absolutely crush and dominate the New England Patriots 34-0. I've got nothing to say, really, for the Patriots on this side of things. Ramondre Stevenson is, I think, a player you want to get away from. You want to sit him if you can. I don't know if you can, though, based on where we were drafting him. Everyone else on the Patriots is a total sit, though. Hunter Henry, you can maybe play as a streaming tight end option based on matchups. I think I actually recommended him for next week in my Beat the Waiver Wire, Beat the Bye Week show last week, because that's more about tight ends than it is about Hunter Henry, to be quite frankly honest with you. That's because tight end position stinks. Chris Olave, I'm starting to get just a bit nervous. I think if you can sell Chris Olave for a value of where you got drafted him, a player right around that range, I think I'm willing to do it at this point. Derek Carr's shoulder is my real concern, but Olave comes away with just 2 catches and 12 yards, does score a touchdown though. So maybe not everybody's going to be panicking too much. They see that big number 34 on the scoreboard for the Saints. I think Olave is a sell high at the moment, and that hurts my heart because I love Chris Olave, but it's really all about Derek Carr's shoulder. Alvin Kamara, he comes through in this one also. 22 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown. Only 3 catches this week for 17 yards. We know how running back catches can be sometimes. They're going to ebb and flow with each game. Kamara, He's a nice RB2 option. Might even find his way to being a low end RB1 based on that usage. I wouldn't go that far, though. I say RB2. Kendre Miller. I think he's definitely got to pick up off the waiver wire if he is still out there. He got 12 carries this one for 37 yards. And Tony Jones Jr. was actually cut from the Saints. So I do like that for Kendre getting that opportunity as the RB2 in New Orleans. All right, let's talk about Baltimore Ravens 10, Pittsburgh Steelers 17. And this one was just ugly all around for the Ravens. Just not much going right. Receivers dropping passes left and right. Lamar making an absolutely horrible throw on that fade route to the corner of the end zone where you absolutely cannot underthrow that ball. Throw it in the stands if you have to. Do not underthrow that ball because it will be intercepted even by JV defenders. And that's exactly what happened in this one. The Ravens, just like I said, across the board, a letdown. Justice Hill does get a touchdown, and it looks to me like we were right back to where we were when J.K. Dobbins first got injured. It's a bit of a Justice Hill and a bit of a Gus Edwards split. You're not really going to know which guy to go with. It does appear as if Justice Hill has the short yardage work, but I don't think it's a very fun backfield to be a part of. Also, not a very fun backfield, the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield. Najee Harris, this guy's got to quit playing so much. Get Jaylen Warren on the football field. My goodness. Warren gave this offense such a spark in the fourth quarter when I remember there was a second down run that created a 3rd and 8. And you could hear a bunch of boos. And Najee Harris just like comes up from the pile for 2 yards in a cloud of dust, just like, oh, why are they booing me? And then Jaylen Warren comes on the field and starts just making plays and carried that Steelers drive. The one that I believe it was one that led to the shorter touchdown, not the Pickens bomb to win the game, but the first touchdown there. Yeah, Jaylen Warren's got to be the guy. They're going into a bye week this week. I would absolutely hang on to Jaylen Warren through that bye. I think I would hold on to him, Pickens. I would hold on to Najee. Deontay's on your IR. So I think that's pretty much it as far as Steelers I'm holding on to through their bye week. I think coming out of the bye, Jaylen Warren really should be a featured part of this offense. They got to take this week and figure out a way to do that, in my opinion. Next up, the Houston Texans 19 fall to the Atlanta Falcons 21. The Falcons finally coming through a little bit, but are we buying it on the Kyle Pitts and the Drake London front? Personally, I am not. I think their season will continue to look more like what their season has than what it did on Sunday. The Falcons, they threw the ball quite a bit in this one as I searched to see what that number actually is. I'm getting a little spinning circle again. That's not what you want. 37 pass attempts. Desmond Ridder in this one. I mean, I feel like he's more likely to have 27 pass attempts than 37. And so that's always going to lead to less opportunities for Pitts and London. They're just going to continue to be frustrating. You got away with it in this one if you started them. On the Texans side of things, Dameon Pierce continues to be a trap back, continues to get his 20 carries and 60 or so yards, but not much at all in the passing game. You know, he doesn't get on the board in this one, so it's just kind of a bloated rushing total, and that's about it. Not much else going on for Dameon Pierce. Very frustrating running back for sure. But hey, if you listen to the ADP in the preseason, you probably didn't draft him now, did you? CJ Stroud continues to be very impressive as a rookie, putting up 249 yards through the air with 35 pass attempts to do it. Tank Dell, thing to note here is that he got a little bit shaken up towards the end of this one. We'll see what his status is for this upcoming Sunday. But him and Nico Collins and Robert Woods, all three kind of disappointing games in this one. But Robert Woods with his 9 targets could be a bit of a guy to pick up this week. We'll see about the Tank Dell injury. But I do believe Robert Woods, he could be a flex option for you. They do face New Orleans this week, which is tough defense. You don't love to see that. On the Falcons side, we already talked about the Falcons. What do I want to talk about the Falcons more for? The Falcons are so uninteresting and uninspiring. Why would I go revisit them? So I'm not going to. Let's move on. Detroit Lions 42. Carolina Panthers 24. Surprised the Panthers even scored 24. It really felt like they didn't move the ball at all. Like, the vibes of this game was a shutout and a complete blowout. I mean, it was a complete blowout. Dave Montgomery was the man in this one. He came through for you with Jahmyr Gibbs out with the injury. this week. He comes through with 109 and a touchdown on the ground. Also chipped in a little 20 yards receiving. Craig Reynolds also came away with a score in this one. Jahmyr Gibbs got hurt so late in the week in practice that I think the hype train wasn't there for Craig Reynolds this time around the way that it was last time when it was Demont missing time. Craig Reynolds, though, 7 carries, 52 and a touchdown. I think a lot of that was garbage time. I don't have the exact breakdown on that. I don't think any of that was when the game was in question. So I would not be spending a priority pickup on Craig Reynolds. Jared Goff, he was at home. He comes through for you with 4 total touchdowns, one of which was a rushing touchdown. Nice little bonus there out of it for Jared Goff. He comes through at home as he usually does. Josh Reynolds, nice game. Because of Amon-Ra St. Brown being out, other guys had to step up. Josh Reynolds is in that group, and Josh Reynolds continues to kind of take advantage of guys missing time, and he continues to be a flex option or a wide receiver 3 if you need him to be one. Jameson Williams, not much doing in his first game back, played less than half the snaps on offense, only 3 targets and 2 catches. Sam Laporta. If we're redrafting today, I think Sam Laporta has definitely established himself as the tight end 3 in redraft, and maybe even tight end 4 for sure. Maybe even tight end 3 over Hawkinson. I think there's a real case to be made there. He comes through again, 2 touchdowns in this one, 3 catches, 47 yards. Nice game out of Sam Laporta. The Panthers, the running back split continues to be ugly. 9 carries for Chuba Hubbard, 7 out of Miles Sanders, and it's a low-scoring offense. This is not what, I was excited about the Lions offense, having 2 guys being top 20 guys, because I was like, oh, there's so many touchdown opportunities in this offense. There's so many targets in this offense. None of that exists in Carolina. There's no target opportunities. There's no touchdown opportunities in Carolina. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of ugly. I'm glad I got off Miles Sanders in the preseason because of that groin injury. I actually did not draft any Miles Sanders this season. And I'm very happy about it because it's an absolute mess. Now Chuba's playing more and more. Chuba's a fine pickup. That's perfectly fine to invest a bench spot into. Sanders is the one you're frustrated with for sure, but Chuba is the one that you are happy with where his value has been because he costs you nothing to acquire. Speaking of guys who cost you nothing to acquire and you've been super happy with, Adam Thielen, 11 catches, 107 yards and a touchdown in this one. Just continues to get peppered with targets in this offense from Bryce Young. And I think we talked about this in the preseason, how someone in Carolina had to get some targets, right? Someone was going to get some work. I think everybody wanted it to be Mingo because we always want the exciting youngster. I think Chark was also a guy a lot of people really wanted it to be. Adam Thielen was kind of hiding in plain sight, though. He really was. And the veteran just continues to churn out these very, very good, useful fantasy games. He's a solid wide receiver, too. And I would have a hard time benching him. I think you're going to have a hard time finding a roster with good enough options to sit Adam Thielen moving forward. Miami 31, New York Football Giants 16. I kind of hope you sold high on Raheem Mostert a couple weeks ago when Devin Achane really started to come onto the scene, and Mostert still had a big game in that first one, because I'm getting a little worried about Mostert's role in this offense being kind of a co-1. I'm a little worried they're just going to start going with Achane as the guy. That being said, Achane does now have a bit of an injury. I saw a note come around just a little bit ago. Let me double check what that injury was. It's a knee injury. Oh dear, we don't like that. So that's no good for Devin Achane. But Mostert still being a part of this offense, still playable as a RB2. But maybe 3 weeks ago, you were able to get RB1 value for him. Jalen Waddle, not a great game, but I think he's kind of a trade target to go get this week. He had 10 targets in this game, only caught 5 of them. He did score a touchdown, though, so the numbers look a little bit better than what maybe people think out of him this week. Achane just continues to dominate. On the New York side of things, Daniel Jones injured in this game with a neck injury. I think even if he plays, you're not going to want to use him anytime soon, as long as you can avoid it. He's got Buffalo, and I know I just talked about how Buffalo's dealing a lot of injuries on defense. I think with this New York Football Giant offense, it does not matter. I think that Saquon and Waller are the only playable guys on the Giants, and I would avoid Daniel Jones at all costs if I can next week. Waller, speaking of him, he did have 11 targets, 8 catches, 86 yards in this one. So a nice game for Darren Waller as he kind of finally gets those targets that he's been looking for. Again, no one else in the Giants really matters. Let's move on. The Cincinnati Bengals, 34, Arizona Cardinals, 20. Joe Burrow is back, baby. And I kind of think he actually is. I know it's the Arizona Cardinals, so it's kind of a cake matchup. But watching Burrow move in the pocket, which has nothing to do with the defense, right? It doesn't matter if it's me or if it's, Reggie White chasing you. If you can't move, you can't move. Burrow moved around a bit more in this game, I thought. I thought there were some deeper drops he was able to actually move around a little bit with. Greatly encouraging. I will actually try to look it up quickly while I'm recording here and see if I can see what his ADOT was this week. See if that is up yet. I am recording this on Monday. Sometimes these are not. Can I go game by game? I don't know if I can go game by game on that at the moment. So I cannot, at least not where I was looking quickly for while I was trying to do this while recording still without trying to make it too awkward. It's not awkward though, right, guys? You guys are loving this. Just listening to Matt, searching around here. Oh, here we go. I found it. What do you know? 6.3 yards through the air per pass attempt for Joe Burrow in this one. That's actually up from his season average of 6.1. It was all the way down at 4.6 against Tampa Bay. It actually is higher than I thought it would have been earlier in the season. I thought he was really checking it down a lot early in the year. And his ADOT, his intended air yards, was actually lower in this one than it was in 2 of the first 3 games. So that surprises me quite a bit because I thought that he definitely threw the ball downfield more in this game. Jamaar Chase just had an absolute whale of a game. He's Jamaar Chase. He is, as he said, 7-11, and he is always effing open. It's 19 targets in this game and 15 catches. Those are some Puka Nacua kind of numbers. 192 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. Trenton Irwin with a nice little game. I love to see that for Trenton Irwin. Good for him. 10 targets in this game, 8 catches and 60 yards. You're not picking up Trenton Irwin. I just think that it's nice to see. I've always had a little soft spot for him. He reminds me a little bit of Cole Beasley in a good way. Tyler Boyd came through a little bit for you here if you played him as a flex with his 6 catches for 39 yards. Got you 9.9 PPR points in that one. Hey, that was some quick math for you. Not a single tight end target from Cincinnati. That's weird. But yeah, the Bengals defense definitely came through against Arizona, as you like to see defenses do. On the Arizona side of things, the big story coming out of it is the injury to James Conner. Amari DiMercado. Not gonna lie, I don't know much about this kid. He's a rookie out of TCU. He was the backup there last season. He appears to be one of the higher end pickups for this week because of the James Conner injury. And I don't know how severe that James Conner banged up is at the moment. Let me quickly see. Yeah, no, there's no update at the moment. But DeMercado, 10 carries, 45 yards. He got a touchdown in this one. Was the clear-cut running back. He's the only other running back to get touches in this game other than Conner. Workload matters in fantasy. If you can get things off the waiver wire, if you can get players who are getting targets and getting carries, that's really all you can ask for when it comes to the waiver wire. These guys aren't on rosters. There's a reason for that. We don't know if they're going to be anything. I don't know if Amari DiMercado is going to go out there and be a fantasy darling. He may be Devon Achane. He may be nothing. But, opportunities arise and you got to give it a shot, right? So that is definitely a guy to keep an eye out on the waiver wire. I'll talk about him. I'm going to record that waiver wire show tonight or early tomorrow morning so you guys have it to get your waiver wire ads in. On the pass catchers for Arizona, Zach Ertz and Hollywood Brown both just squeaked by this week with touchdowns for you. So with Ertz, you're certainly fine with it because any tight end that catches a touchdown is probably a top 10 tight end. Them's the rules. Hollywood, not a great game. But again, he got you a touchdown this one. Can't complain too much. He remains a little bit of a rich man's Gabe Davis, I would say. Next up, the Eagles 23, Los Angeles Rams 14. Dallas Goedert coming through with that big game that we've been waiting for in this one. 8 catches, 117, and a touchdown in this game. That's exciting. That's wonderful. That probably alone is going to vault him to like tight end 5 on the season. And this is why you don't panic when you have a mid-round tight end who isn't coming through for you. This is why you probably didn't drop Kyle Pitts, did you? Even though maybe you should have. Because these kinds of games are all you're looking for out of a tight end. And if you did drop him, you probably were disappointed. So Dallas Goedert comes through the big one in this one. Devonta Smith, now with a couple straight games of disappointing performances. He only gets you 1 catch in this game for 6 yards on 5 targets. A.J. Brown is really taking back over in this offense. The first couple weeks, it looked like I was going to be right with my Devonta Smith over A.J. Brown call. I still think there's a chance to, over the course of the season, that still works out for you. I think Devonta Smith might be a buy low candidate for this week. Go try to make a couple of those trade offers for him. Elsewhere, yeah, A.J. Brown, he was just an absolute monster. Once again, 6 catches, 127 yards through the air. And Jalen Hurts is great once again as well. On the Rams side, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, they coexisted. They're a tag team. They're great. They're Pakupa or something. You know, we can make a team name out of them. They both had very nice games in this one. And that's relieving a lot of nerves, I think, especially someone who landed Puka in a couple leagues and really has been relying on him. Puka with 7 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches, 118 yards. Tutu Atwell did get you a touchdown in this one, so if you had to play him, if you felt frisky, put him in your lineup in this one because Cooper Kupp was his first game back. You got away with a touchdown. Don't do it again. As far as Tutu Atwell is concerned, he now goes to become bench fodder, probably a drop candidate as well. Kyren Williams, ugly in this one. 13 carries for just 54 yards, 2 catches for 4 yards on the air. Look, he's the guy, though, and he continues to get all the work. Ronnie Rivers just got 1 carry in this game. To me, it's kind of ugly, though, and I would not be surprised to see there be a change of the guard at running back at some point this season for the Rams. Matthew Stafford comes away with those 2 touchdowns, also 222 yards in this game for Matthew Stafford. A nice little game, though. I like 20 fantasy points out of him for you. Stafford is a low-end starting option every single week now, I think, with both Puka and Cooper Kupp. I'm going to workshop on that tag team name, but I think Pakupa might just be the way to go on that. Let's see. What's next? Oh, this one's fun. It's the New York Jets 31, the Denver Broncos 21. After all that crap that Sean Payton talked about Nathaniel Hackett in the preseason, I have found Sean Payton to be rather unlikable for a while now, dating back to his New Orleans days. I love Drew Brees. Drew Brees is one of my favorite players in all of football, and Drew really kind of, I think, kept the Saints likable in a way. And those comments from the preseason, I didn't love from Sean Payton. I was quite happy to see the Jets win this one, and I was especially happy to see Breece Hall go out there, 22 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown in this game. And I think I'd like to sell him if I can get a true blue RB1, no doubt about it guy. But I don't think you're going to get that for him. So I would just ride it, man. Like, he played his most snaps of the season. He doubled his previous season high in carries. He broke the big one like you want to see out of him. He also got 3 targets in this game as well. He was used in the air. And also, like, the timeline is matching up what we all expected, right? We all kind of expected, oh, you probably won't really want to start Breece Hall until mid-October. Well, guess what? I sit here, it's October 9th. It's mid-October, y'all. And Breece Hall is becoming a starting option for you. And that's fantastic. It's what we wanted to see from him a year ago. It was great. He does have a tough matchup next week with Philly, and then he's on bye. If you've been losing and you really need to make up some wins, I can see a world where you say, I can't afford to lose the next 2 weeks, and I need to cash in on Breece Hall here. I can see that being a world. just make sure you're getting a lot for him. I would not trade him straight up for anything less than Tony Pollard, I think. And even then, I don't know. Even then, it would be tough. I would rather have him for Breece Hall and Jonathan Taylor are two that I'm really going back and forth on in my head. I think I do prefer Taylor at this point, I think, but it is very close. That's where I'm viewing Breece Hall, though. I think him and Jonathan Taylor are neck and neck as kind of that like high-end second round option at this point if we were redrafting today. The pass catchers for the Jets continue to be very inconsistent with Zach Wilson. Garrett Wilson just 3 catches and 54 yards. Disappointing one for him. But them's going to happen with Zach Wilson at quarterback for you. On the Broncos side of thing, not much to talk about except for Jaleel McLaughlin coming through. This week's top waiver wire ad. He gets the receiving touchdown because we said he'd get quite a bit of receiving work. That's kind of his archetype of a player as well. He gets 9 carries and 68 yards on the ground. You love to see it. I don't know what he's going to be for you moving forward. I would love to see the world where Javonte Williams has his Breece Hall game next week. I'm just worried that may not be the case anytime soon for Javonte. Russell Wilson, by the way, does kind of continue to be a streamable quarterback option as well. He may be a guy you're forced to play in a bye week coming up. Next game, the Kansas City Chiefs 27, Minnesota Vikings 20. Rashee Rice continued to kind of emerge for the Kansas City offense. But the big story, I can't believe I love it, Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce injured his lower ankle. Patrick Mahomes also got banged up a little bit in this one. And Justin Jefferson injured his hamstring. Literally, the top players at 3 of the 4 fantasy positions suffered at least minor injuries, and I led with Rashee Rice. That's what you're here at the ADP for. So let's talk a little bit first about the Vikings. Jefferson, he did leave early. He did not return. It was in the 4th quarter. I have not seen today an update on him. I think KJ Osborne becomes a great pickup, though, potentially a pickup and play option if Justin Jefferson does miss time. Jordan Addison, though, he's the guy I'm excited for this opportunity because I've been excited what I've seen out of Jordan Addison all season. I mean, he had the one real stinker where he just didn't get any targets and, didn't get out there. But in this one, 9 targets, 6 catches, 64 yards, and a touchdown. I've been saying for a couple weeks, I think Jordan Addison is going to be a huge breakout in the second half of this season. And unfortunately, a Justin Jefferson injury can help lead the way to that opportunity, become even more plentiful for Addison. KJ Osborne, 5 catches in this one for 49 yards. He's a guy who anytime that he's had the chance to fill in, he has come through for you in fantasy. So he could definitely be a guy that, like I said, if Jefferson's out, we may not know. Waivers run, in a day. Hopefully we have a bit more information for then, but definitely Osborne's a guy to put on your radar. On the Chiefs, if Kelce's out on Thursday against the Broncos, I think I'm ready to roll the dice. Put Rashee Rice in my lineup. Maybe even I'm putting Sky Moore into my lineup and just kind of hoping one of those guys hits. Maybe it's just a huge game for Isaiah Pacheco. That could be the case as well against that Broncos rush defense. We know how bad they can be. All right, final game, Sunday night football game. The Dallas Cowboys no-show it, put up 10 points. San Francisco 42. And my first big note for this game is that this Texas Coast offense, it's not really working out great for fantasy at all, and especially not for CeeDee Lamb. He was the wide receiver 19 on the season coming into this week. His season highs, he had the big game against the Jets. That was great. Other than that Jets game, though, 77 yards against the Giants, 53 against Arizona, 36 against the Patriots, 49 against San Francisco. That's not what you drafted CeeDee Lamb for. And CeeDee Lamb was an early second-round pick. He, as a player, is fantastic. I have no questions about what CeeDee Lamb as a wide receiver, as a football player is and can be. It's just the way they're using him. It's just stylistically it does not fit what his strengths are. and it's paying a price for sure. And maybe things will change. They've got to buy in 2 weeks. I don't expect things to change though. McCarthy seems pretty set in on doing this style of an offense, even if it's not necessarily working out the best for them. Also in this game, Tony Pollard, pretty minimal work, disappointing game, but I'm not worried about him. I still think Tony Pollard is a very high-end RB1 option. Dak Prescott, he's cuttable at this point. I'd rather have Stafford. I think I'd even rather have Russ. I'd rather have Geno. I'd rather have Goff. There are several quarterbacks out there who I'd rather have at this point than Dak Prescott. Brandon Cooks, he's definitely cuttable. Hopefully, he's already off your team. He's done nothing this season for you. Michael Gallup, disappointing game. He's had a couple nice games with targets over the last couple of weeks. This one did not come through for you. They do have the Chargers next week. So maybe I'm willing to give all these Cowboys one more chance. One more chance here with Dak. One more chance for Michael Gallup. One more chance on CeeDee Lamb at his elite level, right? Obviously, not for dropping CeeDee Lamb, but I'm willing to give him one more chance to show to me that he can be a high-end wide receiver 1, not just a wide receiver 2. But that'll do it, guys. That was every game from the Sunday slate. We made it. We did it. 5 weeks now we've been doing this. This is week 5 is already over. Hey, did you win your matchup? I sure hope you did. Hopefully you did it by listening to some of our advice. If you lost your matchup, well, maybe you didn't listen to all of our advice. Maybe you did. We get things wrong from time to time, and that's okay too. It's fantasy football. Crazy things are going to happen, you know? Have you ever tried predicting the weather? It's not very easy. Try predicting fantasy football. It's even harder. So, guys, come back in. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to get you some of those waiver wire options, some of those guys to pick up to help out your team. If you lost, maybe these guys can help bring you that spark to get you that win next week. If you won, maybe these guys can help you keep on your winning ways. We'll talk about that tomorrow, though. For now, I have been Matt Mormann, and I will see you guys the next time.